Hey everyone, welcome into another edition of TDR Cannabis in 5, presented by Dutchie. I am your host, Shad Dales. Lots to get into today, and the spotlight we're going to focus on is Texas. There's a new expansion of the state's medical marijuana program that just went into effect, and at the same time, fresh polling data shows overwhelming support from Texans who say cannabis is helping them manage their chronic pain. So really, this story is about progress, challenges, and momentum. Texas still has one of the most limited medical programs in the country, but change is happening. So with that, let's break it all down and what this could mean for Texas moving forward. This is the latest TDR Cannabis in 5 presented by Dutchie. Let's get into it. All right, so as of September 1st, Texas officially expanded its medical marijuana program. The list of qualifying conditions grew significantly. Patients with chronic pain, traumatic brain injuries, Crohn disease, and those in hospice or palliative care are now eligible to participate. So that's a meaningful shift. For years, access was restricted to a small set of conditions, leaving many Texans without legal options. Now, tens of thousands of more patients may qualify for treatment, and regulators aren't stopping there. They're preparing to approve new dispensary licenses and allow more satellite retail locations, which should help improve patient access across the state. But to really understand this moment, we have to step back and look at the program itself. Texas runs what's called the Texas Compassionate Use Program, or TCUP. This is the legal framework that governs medical cannabis in the state. It was first created in 2015 and was initially so narrow that only patients with intractable epilepsy could qualify. Pretty restricted, to say the least. But since then, the legislature has slowly expanded TCUP, adding conditions like PTSD, cancer, and now chronic pain. But compared to most states, let's face it, TCUP is still extremely restrictive. So here's how it works today. Cannabis products under TCUP are capped at 1% THC by weight. That means patients can only access low THC medical cannabis. Also, products must be prescribed by physicians who are registered in the program, and the number of doctors willing to participate has been relatively small. Also, patients are limited to oils, tinctures, and edibles. Smokable flower is not allowed, and the program is run by a small number of licensed operators. Just 3 dispensaries currently serve the entire state, but that is now expanding to 15. When we look at those numbers, let's bring us to the challenges. The biggest criticism of TCUP has always been that it doesn't go far enough. Patients and advocates say the THC cap of 1% makes the medicine less effective, especially for people with severe conditions. And they have a point here. In other states, patients have access to products with much higher THC content, which can provide obviously stronger relief. Access is another issue. With a limited number of licensed operators and limited retail locations, many Texans have to drive hours just to reach a dispensary. For patients in rural areas, that's just not realistic. And then there's awareness. Because the program has been so limited, many doctors don't recommend it, and many patients don't even know it exists. So as a result, enrollment has been far lower than it could be. And really, the feedback has been clear. Texans want broader access, more options, and products that are effective enough to meet their needs. But when we say all that, here's the flip side. You gotta start somewhere. Yes, TCUP is restrictive. Yes, it faced criticism. But as we know, every expansion, no matter how small, creates a foundation for what could come next. So that's the story here. By adding chronic pain and other conditions, Texas is acknowledging that medical cannabis has a role to play in healthcare. And once patients and families experience real relief, it becomes much harder for lawmakers to roll this back. So in other words, progress in Texas has been slow, but it's moving in the right direction. The fact that we're even talking about chronic pain in this program is a big step compared to where TCUP started less than a decade ago. Now let's look at some recent polling that took place, and wow, this was telling. It makes the expansion even more powerful. According to a survey from NuggMD, 91% of Texans who use cannabis say it's effective for chronic pain. Think about that. Breaking that down, 65% said cannabis is very effective, 26% said it's mildly effective, and only 4% said it wasn't effective at all. So that's a remarkable level of agreement. And it really confirms what patients have been saying for years. Cannabis works. The science is catching up, but the lived experiences are already there. So really, what happens next when public sentiment looks like this? I'll tell you what it does. It creates pressure. For years, Governor Greg Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick have resisted major reform. They've allowed small expansions, but they've stopped short of broader legalization. But let's face it, when 9 out of 10 Texans are saying cannabis helps, it becomes harder to ignore. Lawmakers may not be ready for adult use, but they're going to feel the heat to keep expanding medical access, raise THC limits, and approve more dispensaries. So let's not lose sight of what this actually means for patients. If you've been been living with daily pain, this is life-changing. It means legal access to something that could finally provide relief. It means fewer dangerous opioids, fewer side effects, and let's face it, a better quality of life. For families and caregivers, it's really hope. For veterans and people with long-term injuries, let's face it, it's validation. And for the state of Texas, it's the beginning of a more humane healthcare approach. Hey, politicians, aren't we in office to give back to what the people want? I'll just leave it at that. So if we zoom out, Texas is still behind most of the country. 40 states have medical cannabis programs, and many allow higher THC products, more forms of consumption, and easier access. Chronic pain is a qualifying condition in almost all of them. So Texas is playing catch up, but because it's the second largest state in the U.S., even modest expansions, they carry weight. Tens of thousands of patients could now qualify, and that alone makes Texas a market worth watching. We all know everything's bigger in Texas. So really, where does Texas go from here? We'll look at number one. It's the enrollment numbers. Will patient signups jump now that chronic pain is included? Then you got number two, which is dispensary growth. Will the state license add more operators quickly enough to meet demand? Number three is THC limits. Will lawmakers face pressure to raise or remove the 1% THC cap? And finally, number four is the feedback, public testimony. As more patients share their stories, will political resistance soften? These are going to be the big questions that will shape the future of TCUP in Texas. So to wrap this up, at our latest TDR Cannabis in 5 presented by Dutchie, Texas medical marijuana program known as TCUP has faced plenty of criticism for being too restrictive. But this latest expansion, which adds chronic pain and several other conditions, represents meaningful progress. Yes, there are challenges. Yes, the program still has limits. But like I said, you have to start somewhere. And with public polling showing overwhelming support, Texas is taking steps that could eventually open the door to something much bigger. 91%. Think about that number. It's big. Let us know in the comments below. What do you think of this latest move by the state of Texas? And is this the beginning of something much bigger that's going to happen in the Lone Star State? Leave your comments below. We'd love to get your feedback. As usual, if you like this breakdown, make sure to give this video a like, hit that subscribe button, and make sure to smash on that bell for all notifications. That's it for today, everyone. For our latest TDR Cannabis in 5 presented by Dutchie, I'm your host, Shad Dales. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.